After having tens of millions of dollars spent on his behalf, Jeb Bush finished fourth in New Hampshire. He arrived in South Carolina with criticism for everyone. Elaine, according to Bush, Trump is too insulting, Kasich too moderate, Rubio too inexperienced, and Cruz too calculating.
Major, you spoke with Marco Rubio earlier about his lessons from New Hampshire. Let's play some of that.
I think from our perspective, we knew we were going to South Carolina, irrespective of how things turned out in New Hampshire. I'm just disappointed because I knew we could have done a lot better in New Hampshire, and we would have done a lot better had I had a better night. Had I had a better 90 seconds that night in New Hampshire. But we'll get this right.
Are you afraid those 90 seconds will, for the remainder of this campaign, find Marco?
No, because it's not the first thing people see of me. And by the way, I thought the rest of that debate we did very well, and by all accounts we did. We had 7 debates before that, most of whom people would argue I did good or better than anybody else. Some of whom people unanimously said I did the best at. So I think voters know a lot more about me now. If this had happened earlier in the campaign, it might have been more problematic. But I think now people know a lot more about me than they did 3 or 6 months ago. So it's not, it's one piece of information, but it's not, there's a lot of other things out there people know about me.
Major, Marco Rubio has slim chances at a first or second place finish in South Carolina. How does he keep his campaign moving forward with nothing above third place in the first 3 primaries?
Well, what he's got to do here, South Carolina, first, Elaine, is end this entire media narrative about the botched Saturday debate performance and how it tanked Marco Rubio's rising momentum in New Hampshire at just precisely the wrong moment. That's why Rubio granted us an interview, a lot of other networks interviews. He had a 50-minute press conference on his plane as we flew from Manchester here to Greenville, South Carolina. So the first order of business for the Rubio campaign is to move beyond this. And Marco Rubio tried to do that with the interviews and his confession to supporters last night in Manchester. I blew it. This is on me and it will never happen again. After that, then the Rubio campaign can start working on its ground game here in South Carolina. Some of the best political operatives in the state are working on behalf of Marco Rubio. He's got to deal with Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, a resurgent John Kasich, and of course, Donald Trump, who is leading in the polls here and arrives with very sizable momentum. And you can see the crowd behind me here in Pendleton, South Carolina. They've been here for a good long while. As Trump typically does, he's packed the arena.
Major, let's look ahead to this weekend's GOP debate on CBS, where you'll be on the panel. Among the establishment candidates, John Kasich was the top finisher. He's run a largely positive campaign so far, but of course is likely going to come under attack on that stage. What is his strategy here going forward?
Well, Kasich knows he's going to be hit on issues that he really hasn't had to confront because no one took him seriously until now. He expanded Medicaid in Ohio for many Republicans doing anything to expand or to verify the underlying law, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, is very bad politics and bad policy. So Kasich will get criticism on that. Way back in his congressional career, he voted for an assault weapons ban. That issue could likely come up. And there are questions about just jobs have been created because of his initiatives in Ohio, other issues like that. Kasich, that's coming. And as any politician will tell you, when you're attacked, you know you're doing something right, because if no one's paying attention to you, it's because they believe you don't matter. Kasich matters, but the expectations here have to be very low for John Kasich for a couple of reasons. He doesn't have an organization of any kind here in South Carolina. Why? Because he put all of his resources into New Hampshire. So building a campaign organization on the fly is one of the hardest things to do in presidential politics. And the electorate here is much more conservative than the more moderate and independent inclined electorate on the Republican side in New Hampshire. So it's an uphill climb here for Kasich, but he's just happy to be here because 5 or 6 weeks ago, very few people would have predicted he would arrive in South Carolina under any conditions, let alone with second place momentum from New Hampshire.
All right, Major Garrett, thank you so much.
Sure.